Dia Guiv Galera Cordia August Thofoilta Road. Welcome to be my guest with me, Mary Honan, on Lear Media TV, supporting the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary, and Clare's Wish Foundation in Limerick, and also Deel Animal Rescue in West Limerick. And I have been waiting to interview this woman since the moment I got the opportunity for her to say yes. And I can't quite believe her life and her story. So I'm sure you're all going to find it utterly fascinating. Hello, and it's Sequoia Lawson from Los Angeles, California, via,
Nailed
via where you're originally from. You're not always from Los Angeles.
No, I'm from New Jersey, born and raised.
Here in New Jersey.
New Jersey. I sound like I'm straight out of Jersey.
Koya, you're the CEO of your own company now. Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yes, I'm the CEO of Living Phenom. I'm also the founder and everything else right now. And Living Phenom is love poured out. It's a ministry of nutritional health and wellness for the mind, body, and soul, according to how God designed his people to thrive, using the plants, the planet, and people in unison so that we can really live a detox lifestyle and live in the full benefits of the earth as God made for us to benefit from it. So we have a foods aspect of it, which is Living Phenom Foods, which is what I'm probably most known for on social media as the executive chef of Living Phenom Foods. I'm the mastermind behind all the creations. So all of the food that you see on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook, wherever you see it, it's the food that are recipes that I got from God on how to eat my way back from I was blind, deaf, paralyzed, and morbidly obese at
100 pounds in weight.
Almost 400 pounds.
And drug addicted.
Again.
And drug addicted.
Yes, and drug addicted. I was super drug addicted. Those pharmaceutical drugs are no joke. They do say they're habit forming, and that's like an understatement that I'm sure legally they can obviously get away with putting it's habit forming. Habit as an addiction, yes, it will form a habit of addiction, and it's a codependency that comes from digestion. Like your entire insides wants more of that drug because as it dissolves on its way down, it's getting everything. So it's all getting drugs and nothing wants to feel bad with the drugs leaving it. So it's like, give me more, give me more. And now it's just like, you hurt if you don't get your pills, you hurt if you don't this, or you hurt if you don't take your meds. And it's because the body's going through withdrawal, not because you're actually like getting better or something's getting worse. Other things are now hurting, And again, that's the heart of Living Phenom. It's living a life of exceptionalism. God really does have a specific way for his people to live. When Jesus ascended, and I say this and I mean all the love in the world, it's just the truth. He never said, I assign to you a position. So I just see that there is a line that's being crossed with God's people depending on him for their wholeness and us depending on the hands of man, because through man, they only make destruction, and I live the destruction. So it's like I take the wisdom of man that we know about the body and see, what does God say about this? How can I take what they know is wrong with me and what is my solution from God? And that's what I did with Living Phenom. I took my problems to God and he gave me solutions that are in the earth.
Getting a second opinion. You go to a doctor and they send you to a specialist. You see God as being the specialist, the person who is more qualified, and
absolutely,
you're going with his decision rather than the. But I mean, we have to say that everybody needs to follow their own guidance, their own wisdom in all of this. And if people find that conventional medicine is the way to go for them, then that's good. But you're only talking from your personal perspective of life was like for you. Isn't it ironic that you were called Sequoia when, which is after a flower and after a plant, when
Yes.
now you're so reliant on nature?
I never looked at that. I never noticed that before, but yes, it's completely organic. It's like
Set
I
up
and
a company
my
called
wife's name is
Sequoia.
Tree as well. Say again.
Set up a company called Sequoia.
Oh, I
A
love it.
herbal company called Sequoia.
Oh, really? In Ireland?
No, you should.
Oh, yes, without a
Set up
doubt. That's
a herbal
gorgeous. I'm gonna write that down. I'm so glad you said that. Thank you
Sequoia
so much.
because
Yes.
it's Sequoia by name, Sequoia by nature.
Yes. Wow. You're good
You
at
know,
this.
yeah,
Wow.
you were called Sequoia for a reason. Um,
Absolutely.
Tell us your story, Sequoia. When you say you were paralyzed, blind, and deaf, how bad was it?
Oh my goodness. Um, at my very worst, it was 50 to 90% in paralysis. So some days just I all I could do was cry, and that was it. I didn't have vocal cords that were working that day. I didn't have limbs that were working, no extremities. It was just imagine like you go to sleep and then you wake up and all you can do is move your eyes.
Jesus.
That's it.
But how did that happen, you? How did that
Honest,
manifest?
honestly, it was after I would say my 16th. I went to my 16th or 17th surgery. No, 16th. And the specialist who had removed this device, I had a defective device in my back that my body had rejected. It was wired into my spine and it was wreaking havoc. He said to me that it was assumed that I had a series of small strokes during the course of this neurological disorder or disease, as they call it, complex regional pain syndrome type 2. There's a 1 and then there's a 2. There's no known cure, there's no known trigger, there's no known treatment, and there's no real history. They just know that it has these symptoms that manifest in chronic pain. And the pain level that I was diagnosed at was terminal. So they said amputation and childbirth are at like a 32 and a 37 out of 50. I was at a 48. So I was supposed to be, the drugs that I was prescribed are obviously highly addictive at that level. You could imagine someone who's living as though their body is close to death, but their will is still living. So they're feeling all the pains of everything dying. But so you want to ease that suffering for them.
Yeah.
And I just had one of those mighty Sequoia moments, where it was just like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And the mighty Sequoia moment came when I had a mighty God moment, where he just reminded me that he had a will for me. If I were to come and eat with you, what would you feed me? Those are words that were spoken to me.
But was it all tied up? Certainly paralysis and the strokes, were they all tied up with your overweight?
Oh my goodness.
Overweight, or was being overweight a symptom or a consequence of being paralyzed?
Actually, it was a side effect of the prescription drugs that I was taking.
Okay.
And I had the trauma, which was a tap to the elbow, just super simple. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can.
So this was set at a 90-degree angle. They manipulated the muscle groups in my forearm and my bicep and set it at a 90-degree angle and made an artificial flap to take the nerve out of this place where it lays naturally and put it here so it wasn't in an area that was damaged. So my arm was set, at a permanent 90-degree angle.
Sorry for interrupting you,
No
Sequoia.
worries.
When did you first start noticing the symptoms of paralysis? When were you suffering from a condition before,
No.
and an operation caused the paralysis, or what?
So what happened was I hit my elbow on a countertop.
Well,
So yes, you know how they say, oh, I hit my funny bone? That's actually your ulnar nerve, the nerve that controls your last two fingers. And the nerve endings is what we catch when we tap our our elbow bone on on anything. We feel it, the tingles. Well, I hit mine like a bullseye right in the middle. And I felt immediately something was really wrong. I felt immediately there was like tingles and numbness and like little shooting electrical pains that were like going up my arm and like in my face. And the next day I was all swollen. I went to the ER, and they did x-rays and they're like, we think maybe you bruised a bone, but there's too much swelling on it to really tell. We think you should see a specialist because there's nothing broken that would really justify the pain that you're in or, the swelling. So it just, before I could even get to a specialist, it got really, really bad. It got to the point where my hand was swollen like a baseball glove, like a mitt.
Yeah.
And it was purple and cold, and my whole arm would just go completely numb. And at the time, I was a ballroom dance instructor. And I want to say a ballroom dance instructor. And what else? I was doing some other job, either I think of retail or maybe a dental assistant or something like that. And I was dancing with one of the coaches I was training with, and my arm went numb and cold, and she freaked out. And she was like, "You can't come back here like that. Your arm is like purple and it's ice cold." And all I could do was cry, you know? And immediately when I hit my elbow, I knew something was different. And days later, weeks later, however long it was when I got to the specialist, it was really severe. I remember waking up one morning and I couldn't feel anything at all in my right arm. And I freaked out. You want to talk about a freak out? I freaked out. It was like a limp noodle. Just, and I'm screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God." And my arm is just flailing, and nothing.
No muscle.
And this was on impact. And all I did was literally hit my elbow on a countertop. So by the time I got to the doctor, they just assumed it was nerve damage. They're like, your nerve is damaged and it's causing all of this. We think we can relieve some pressure by, doing a neurolysis and ulnar nerve transposition, which means they're going to open up the nerve, or open up where the nerve is, and they're going to strip down all the little nerve endings off of it, the sides, all the damage. And then they're going to move it into another place and like just slice into some muscle inside there and fold it over it and sew it down. And that worked for like maybe a few hours after surgery. And then it was a fury. I went into surgery and I could do this with my right hand. I came out of surgery and I could only do this. And then the first surgery left me like this. And then the second surgery left me like this. And then by the time I had the third surgery, it just got to the point where it was like this.
I know we shouldn't laugh, but you can probably look back in it now and think, God.
Yes.
Get through it.
Yes. It used to terrify me. Like I had to fight demons in between my healing, and realizing my testimony was real. I would look at myself and I would still see my hand like withered, like the Bible says, I had the withered hand, like for real. I really did. I had atrophy in my right arm, and it just was, I kept it in a hoodie pocket. So nobody really knew. And I just like stood to the side, like if I was posing, and people just thought I was cute, like, "Oh, look at that. She's just a cute little chubby woman, cute little chubby girl." And it wasn't. I was morbidly obese. I was putting on weight like 10 pounds a week in fluid.
And that was
swelling.
The medication and the inactivity as well.
Yes, exactly. So with not having the feeling, the sensation to walk or anything, like not having full use of my body, and I'm in chronic pain. It felt like I was stuck in between a brick wall and a Mack truck on neutral, just not crushing me completely, but all that pressure on me. I didn't have the strength to push it off, so it's just crushing everything at the same time. So I'm taking pills like I'm popping hope, you know what I mean? And I'm,
It's a very good expression, Sequoia.
thank you.
Popping hope. Good.
Absolutely. I'm
It's actually
shoveling it down my throat.
it's a title for a book if you ever decide to write.
Oh, let me,
Write it down there now.
wow. Hold on a minute. That's a phenomenal idea. I am
And
a writer.
so giving you the
Wow.
name, I've given you the name of a new company.
Absolutely.
Sequoia by name, Sequoia by
I
name,
love it.
and Popping Hope.
We're gonna have to, I'm
To
writing with a
copyright.
highlighter and
You need to
it's dead.
You need to copyright those too, so that
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. We have it on video. This is recorded. This is our property. Thank you so much. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I can laugh about it now, but like I used to be horrified to look at myself because I would see the images of like, the scars, like it was still open and I could see it raw, even though I was still healed. And, my hand, even though I could move it, it was just like I was terrified, like, what if it decides it's going to crawl back up like a claw, or, when the weight really started to come off. The first 50 pounds, I put more clothes on. I started wearing so much clothes at one time to compensate for the fact that I had just lost 50 pounds by listening to God. I didn't do anything else. I couldn't afford anything else. I didn't have anything else. He told me what to do. I did it and I dropped that weight super fast.
Nobody realizes how debilitating, and people say, it's no harm having a few pounds, but nobody knows how debilitating it is. I mean, I'm carrying weight double what I was. I mean, I was never more than 90 pounds. I'm only 4'10". And I find it very hard to actually, I'm quite happy that we're still in stage 5 lockdown in this country, because the thoughts of going out and having to try on clothes and knowing that everything in my wardrobe I was always so slim and always a dancer, so I was always so fit, and I'm the exact opposite. And grief did it to me. You either stop eating, or then when you start eating again, you start eating too much.
Wow.
And I was vegetarian for 2 years, but you couldn't get anything in this country. So
wow.
I went back eating little bits of meat again, and I would like to get back to eating a more healthy diet.
Of course.
I mean, you're a vegan.
I'm classified as a vegan because it's no plants. I mean, no animals, forgive me, no plants. It's only plants, no animals at all. So nothing from an animal, no meat, no dairy, nothing. So just plants and water. Well, when I say plants and water, that means tea, that means juice, that means smoothies, that means everything, like coffee. That means, that's still water. Say again?
No milk.
No milk. I mean, I make my own milk from plants, but I don't get my milk from animals anymore. No.
Oh, gotcha. You see, I'm not really, I love looking. I have loads and loads of cookery books, but I never really like being in the kitchen because I never know where to start. I like doing desserts, and I don't eat them, but I like doing them because they're colorful and they're decorative.
Beautiful.
And they look lovely when you're finished. Whereas food is just, by the time I have the food cooked, the hunger has gone off me.
I understand that.
Yeah, and I saw you cooking away quite happily, as if you were in your element. And I just wish I had that motivation. My grandmother was a great cook, and my mother was a simple cook, but great. And I just never inherited the love of the kitchen like they did.
Oh, well, I think you inherited it in your own right. And it's just about placing your confidence where you thrive at. So you bake. So that's where you thrive in the kitchen. Just you're an oven chef. You can bake, Absolutely. There's so many delicious things to bake. I mean, that's just one and done. There's casseroles. Oh my goodness, everything in a pan and you bake it in the oven. It's going to be amazing. Roasted veggies.
When I say baking, I mean cakes and uh, uh, confectionery and things like that. And now maybe I took after my uncle Stan, in that my dad's brother, who was trained in the Royal Army Medical Corps, or the British Army, but he was trained as a chef. So he used to do wedding cakes and
Oh, wow.
and he did my parents' wedding cake, and he was always baking. And even still, he's 84 and he'll never go hungry because he loves to cook. You know, and I just keep on saying, I need to actually I needed to have inherited something from them. I don't seem to have inherited anything good from anyone.
Well, good thing there's always God. You have your grace from him. I mean, I think you're phenomenal. The fact that you bake and you're a confectionery artist is really phenomenal. I need to grow in that area of making my food more beautiful. It's functional for sure, but that finish where it just looks like a picture, I need to connect with that more.
Yeah, I don't think I can do that. I used to do wedding cakes. Not I used to bake the
Wow.
cake. I used to do
Hmm.
I used to do the edible flowers and
For
the
real?
edible icing. And
Wow.
each flower would take about 4 weeks, because you have to leave them dry out, each layer
Yeah.
dry out, and a layer upon layer upon layer to create
Wow.
the roses and the rosebuds and the lilies and the butterflies. But the cakes other people used to bake.
Wow,
So
yeah. Well,
it's
but
just
look at that's an artistry. I've not encountered someone directly that had that skill. So thank you so much.
oh
Um, and I mean that kind of finishing, like to make it look natural, like you take something that's edible and you make it look like food. That's food art. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it's food
I
art.
I am a food artist. I love to take something that's like it looks like your homemade something like it's comfort food and then flip it into something that's completely nutritious and delicious. And you're like, wow, it tastes like this thing that has meat in it, but it doesn't have meat in it and it tastes better. And it's like, yeah, and it's better for you. I love that. That's my food artistry. And I love that I have my own platform, with Living Phenom Foods. I
Mm.
get to take plants, which are everywhere in the world. And I've got my eye on Ireland. Okay. At some point I will be venturing there. And I want to know about the local produce. I want to see where it grows. I want to taste it for myself.
We're an
um,
agricultural country, and
Ooh,
I don't think we do enough in this country for with our agriculture, because we bring a lot of our foods in from other countries, and really, I mean, when if I get on a train and I'm going to Dublin or wherever, and you're looking at acres upon acres upon acres of green grass
uh,
everywhere, and you're
wow.
thinking, couldn't they use those to grow vegetables and to grow strawberries and to grow potatoes, and instead of just having land where cows are grazing, instead of having everything depending entirely on dairy, we should be using the land, and people should be paid more to use their land to grow vegetables and supply the vegetables within our own country, and not have to be dependent on other countries for I know
Versus,
some vegetables and some plants won't grow in this country because of our weather, but what we can grow, we should be growing. What
absolutely.
things that are grown in this country are far more expensive to actually supply here than they are to bring them in, and that to me seems immoral.
Absolutely. I'm
And
so grateful that you said that. That's that's what Living Phenom is about. Is that very same vision everywhere for everybody.
you
If say
you
again,
you grow your own vegetables.
I'm actually actively growing onions right now. What else are we growing? We were growing microgreens. We had some broccoli, some radish, and some arugula, I think it was, but they just, they did not go well. So we're starting over. We are not like avid grower. I didn't grow up with growing anything, but I can make a meal out of whatever grows out of the garden. That's the part of success that I was in. That's my little part of the family. I was the chef.
What do you use to grow to what would be your go-to meal?
My go-to meal, a go-to meal, always something with chickpeas in it.
Chickpeas.
If chickpeas. So
There's
I'm
plenty of protein in them.
super protein. There's more protein in 1 tablespoon of chickpeas than there is in 1 large egg.
Wow.
So we eat chickpeas like it's nobody's business. And it's super versatile. You can make it into a flour. So I usually take it and make it into a flour, and then I'll make it into a batter. And it whips up just almost like eggs, except for without that viscosity. And I'll just make it like an omelet. I'll make it into a batter and pour it into a hot skillet and let it take its shape. And I have my cooked veggies. I'll put it in the center and just fold it in there. And it's
do you make a paste out of chickpeas?
Chickpea omelette. So there's 2 ways. If you have dry chickpeas, you can put them in your high power blender you had to just, mill it or grind it into a powder. And that's how you're going to get your chickpea flour. Or if you have access to buying it, you can buy chickpea flour. Or if you don't have access to chickpea flour, you can take chickpeas, and that I do mine dry. And I put my dry chickpeas in the blender with water. And I just put that baby on high until there's nothing left. And the chickpeas will absorb the water and it'll break it down. It'll actually turn into a batter. You could also cook your chickpeas first if you needed to, but the whole point is to infuse the water into the chickpea and blend it. Once you blend it.
So you blend the chickpeas until it's powder, and you add water.
So let's say, do you have access to chickpea flour in Ireland?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Do you have access to canned chickpeas?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's go with canned chickpeas. 1 can of chickpeas drained in your blender with your seasonings. It's going to come out to like a little paste. You just add a little water into your desired texture. If you're going to go for something like you want to put it in a skillet or like on a flat griddle to cook it. So you want it to be like a pancake batter.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So you just, the chickpeas drained from the can in your blender with probably this much water to start. What's that, about a 1/4 cup of water? And you'll see it gets all beautiful pureed and it'll change white, and you make sure it's seasoned. You give it a little taste and you see what the texture's like. And you'll know as a baker if this is something, okay, it's like a pancake batter. I can put this on a nice medium high heat skillet that's lightly oiled, and I'm going to let it
to it.
Say again.
Then add your vegetables to it.
Oh, yes. You want to make sure you season that. You want to get once it's pureed, you want to get like your mushrooms in there, your onions in there. You want to get bell pepper in there. You want to get your flavorful herbs in there, your parsley or cilantro, tomato. You can dice it and just fold it right into your batter. And then you're going to put it in muffin cups if you have it, and bake it in your oven. Or you can pour it on your griddle and pour it like a pancake, and it'll really bubble up and get a beautiful crust. On the bottom, you'll see it bubble on the top, and then you'll be able to flip it and it'll be golden, beautiful brown. And you'll be like, oh my God, it's cooked chickpeas. Yes.
And it's not like, and it's a replacement for eggs.
Yes, you can replace your bread with it. I do desserts with chickpeas, that like coffee cake, how it has the crumbly cake with the beautiful flour and sugar crumbles on the top. I replace it with chickpeas, and I use fruit with it. It's amazing.
Vegan food? Were you always vegan food, or did you just come on it and do you attribute it to your recovery?
Okay, so yes to all of that, but there's more. So I did not grow up strictly vegan. We grew up in a house that had meat, but the woman who raised me, she grew up on a farm. So we always had fresh veggies and fruits. And she, canned everything and, taught me how to make the food. Like there's an apple tree or a pear tree in the backyard. And she taught me how to can apples or pears and how to make them into pies and applesauce and stuff like that. So to me, it was like exciting. Like when I see a plant, I'm like, whoa, I'm going to make food, because you usually see food as a kid. You're just like, oh, it's on a plate already. Oh, it's in a box. I can't eat it yet. Oh, man. But when you see a tree and then you get to see how it goes from a plant to being on the plate, it's just like, I can do that. I'm doing it all the time. I'm doing it right now. And you just, so it birthed in me as a child, it groomed in me. So when I had that moment with God, when my health, it was a life or death situation. I was face down on the floor, almost 400 pounds. My body failed me on my way to the bathroom. I wound up messing all over myself because I couldn't drag myself across the floor with one arm. And he spoke to me, asked me what I would feed him if he came and ate with me. I didn't have anything natural. And it just brought me back to that, boom, that moment. I know he made the earth and everything in it. So if he were to come to my house, I would have to give him what he made in the earth and everything in it. And that's where it changed for me, where I wound up going like in a completely different path than what I was raised. Like I was raised.
That's roughly 24 stone in stones. I think in stones rather than pounds. 400 pounds. There's 60 pounds in a stone. 4 6. That's roughly 24 stone in weight you were.
Wow. I never looked at it that way.
And it's just because when I was looking at it, I was saying, it had to have been a combination of your lifestyle, the medication, and the paralysis. You couldn't go anywhere. It must have been very, very isolating for you.
Yes, 100%. It was I called it prison. I say I did a prison term. I did 12 years in prison in my own body.
And what was wrong with your eyes and your hearing?
Oh, so they said it was from the neurological damage or from the nerve damage that it would just ping. Different nerves would just be affected by this neurological disease. And that nerve disorder, that just, malfunction would just one day would just sit on my eyesight whenever it wanted to. Or it would sit on my hearing or it would just sit on, whatever limb or, whatever, even like parts.
So you could wake up today and it could be your arm that was paralyzed. And then the next morning you could wake up and you couldn't move at all from the neck down.
That's it. Like it was random.
I interviewed a lady, you should probably request her as a link on LinkedIn. And her name is Rihanna Kelly.
Oh my goodness. I saw her story like 5 times. I watched your interview with her and her husband. Oh my God.
Rihanna and her husband, who's a former rugby league, played for England and played for Wales in rugby. But he's her partner. They're not married, but he's been instrumental in her success in overcoming paralysis. Now she has to use a lot of prosthetics to try and help her to walk and that. But my God, such an inspirational man. Both of them are. But to meet somebody that is that much 100% behind your recovery and helping you to recover doesn't always happen. Did you have to do it all on your own?
Yes. I was not in a healthy or loving, I was in a very highly abusive environment. I was surrounded by people who were like in a life-threatening domestic violence situation. Like this was life or death. If
Yeah.
what I was going through didn't kill me, these people, I truly believe that at some point would have. It was just that volatile of a situation.
Yeah.
And it just incubated the isolation, and it incubated the it was like everything just kept going wrong. And it was the more I was around them, the worse my health got.
Yeah.
You know, the worse it was, like the more toxic, and then the more toxic, and then the more toxic. And there's just but so much toxicity the human body can take. And I mean, once I got away from them, I got better. And I truly believe that that's where my healing came from. That was my debilitation came from, was the abuse that I sustained at the hands of others and then subjected myself to, at being trained to, for abuse by the hands of others, and, being conditioned for abuse as a child and so on. And once I got to a place where I wasn't being encouraged to abuse, I wasn't being provoked to abuse, I wasn't even there was nothing of abuse here, it was just like.
Is that why you moved to San Francisco?
Well, Los Angeles, yes. I moved here. This is
Oh, Los Angeles, San Francisco.
It's all California to me.
San Francisco, streets of San Francisco.
Yeah, it's a LA. We're in LA. Yes. Yes, I moved here for a new beginning. I made my exodus here, and now I'm in my genesis. This is my new beginning here in Los Angeles. This is a complete new life. I've actually been walking upright on my own for 5 years now. This is my 5-year anniversary. In 2016, I had my last surgery, and I walked into surgery on my own 2 feet, and I walked out on my own 2 feet, even more upright and more agile than I walked in. And that was it. So I had to learn how to balance myself and stand and step again. But so it's been 5 years. I'm surgery free.
Do you attribute your recovery to the doctors, the medical professionals that actually worked in combination with the healthy lifestyle that you were now living? Do you know?
I will tell you this, and no one's ever asked me this, and I'm so amazed I'm going to say this out loud. The last doctor who did the final surgery I had, the explantation of a neurostimulator spinal cord implant that had failed. It was, what is it called? Defective. It was supposed to last 20 years, and it died after 14 months. And he removed that machine from my body. And I felt better afterwards. Everything that was bad, everything that was wrong, all the pressure, all the swelling, all the fever that wouldn't go away, and all of that.
You had foreign bodies inside in your body for so long. You had foreign bodies inside in them. By foreign bodies, I mean you had pieces of machinery and pieces of metal inside in your body, and probably they were reacting badly to your body just physically couldn't take it. Not everybody can take things, and then your food, your diet was probably the fact that you were going vegan and you were eating plant-based diet might not have been in harmony, if you like, with what was inside your body now. Is that possible?
I wasn't vegan then. I transitioned. So it took me vegan for 4 or 5 years. But transitioning from, I always ate, if I ate meat, I usually would just eat like poultry. And I think for maybe like poultry and seafood, I ate maybe beef for 2 years. And then I stopped. So once I stopped eating beef, and that was after 20 years of not ever having it, I went through a thing. I had to know like this was really it for me, because I knew what I felt like after I ate meat, and I didn't want to feel like that anymore. I had all of this experience with pain, and anything that caused me any discomfort, I'm telling you, I was not doing it. There's certain vegetables I won't eat because of the discomfort I experience afterwards. There's certain plants are, it doesn't matter. If it causes me discomfort, I'm just not going to do it. So I noticed that, like, that's how I stepped down from meat. First it was, okay, well, I won't eat beef. You know, maybe me eating beef is why I felt like this, or, and then I won't eat this. I won't eat chicken. Oh, you know, maybe I won't eat eggs. You know, I won't eat cheese. You know, maybe I won't have yogurt anymore. You know what? Oh, that has butter in it. I'm not going to have that either. And then it was, maybe I won't have this anymore. So like they call it an elimination diet, you know, where you're just like, oh, I'm going to just take this out because I kind of feel bad when I eat it. That's God speaking to us. And he's letting us know that, hey, this is hurting you. And he points them out and he points them out and he points them out. And it's up to us to listen. And when we do, we get that relief, you know? And that is something that should be amplified. We should all be encouraged to know, hey, yes, I am hearing from God. This is awesome. He's telling me that I should not eat that and I'm not going to eat that. So
it took a lot for you, because eventually you got your, I presume your sight has never been given you, thank God, given you any problems since, or your hearing.
Exactly.
And you were able to wean yourself off the medication. That must have been the hardest thing to ease yourself off, to realize
I didn't wean myself off. I went cold turkey. I just dumped everything out and I completely almost died with detoxing from those pharmaceutical drugs. I didn't tell you that, but yeah, I'm yeah, that was not planned. There was no plan with my doctor. I wasn't conditioned for support. Okay. So I didn't grow up in a nurturing environment where we are used to having conversation and communicating and talking about what's going on and making plans on how we can take care of this together. I did not grow up like that. I grew up and get it done or get hurt. So this is hurting me. I got to get something else done. And the drugs were hurting me. I was a junkie. I was a prescription pill junkie, a really bad one. I had so many pills. I ate more pills than I ate food in a day. I remembered I would just be like with my purse and I didn't even realize it, but I would just be out, you know, and you'd see a woman just go through her purse and just pick something out of it. And you would think, oh, she's maybe eating some sunflower seeds. No, I was chewing pills. I had a problem. It started when I was 6 years old.
Sequoia, I'm going to ask you this now, and don't take it the wrong way. Do you think it's something that you see it on the TV quite a lot, and you see it in movies and that? And I was watching a movie the other night, and I've watched it for about the 10th time. It was what was it called? The something lawyer. Matthew McConaughey was in it. Anyway, the Lincoln Lawyer. And I've watched it so many times, but I was looking at Matthew McConaughey in it, and he had been out the night before and he'd had a hangover. And he was there and he was talking, and they were looking, there was a murder after being committed, or a rape, and his client was after murdering a previous woman. But there, and he had a box of pills, and he was he just put the box of pills into his mouth, and I presume he was taking two out, but there was no such thing as taking two. And the more I watch films and movies, you start to think, is there a proliferation in the country of just prescribing drugs for people when healthy living might actually get up and walk out if you have a pain? And I'm a migraine sufferer, and that's the only time when it gets really, really, really bad that I find myself taking a medication. I also have asthma, but I try not to use my inhalers very often unless I get an attack, and probably I should be using them every day. But I look at the TV and I think, God, is it a thing in America that doctors are just constantly an easy way out, prescribe medication, and people just taking them, like you said, popping pills?
It's the American dream. It's the American scheme.
Happiness.
Yes, that's it. Just pop and hope. Hey, I hope, because when you think about how we're conditioned in America, we are not conditioned to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. We're not conditioned to be kind to one another. We're not conditioned to take time and speak to one another. We're not conditioned to have any kind of sense of community or unity,
And yet,
co-unity.
welcoming country from people who, you know, it's embraced every nationality, including 44 million Irish,
Mhm.
or people who have who embrace their Irishness. But wonder about the amount
Irishness.
of medication.
I never heard Irishness before.
Irish,
That's so awesome.
they embrace their Irish identity.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah, but I just think that you see on every movie, you see them just popping pills out of the bottle.
Yes, yes.
I'm wondering how real that is or how realistic that is. And was that your lifestyle?
Well, I mean, it's on billboards, it's in magazines, it's on TV, it's in your advertisements while you're listening to your music, you're streaming on your apps, it's in your pops up while you're playing your game in your apps, it's in your feed in the morning, it's everywhere. It's those beautiful commercials where it's, people are doing all these things that, hey, you've never done in your life. You probably don't have you don't have the access to it, or you just never had the experience or exposure. And you see these people on a jet ski or playing golf, or maybe they're baking in this beautiful gourmet kitchen, or they're dancing and they are driving a nice vehicle. And then they get out and they're talking about how they take these pills, and these pills are helping them live like this, and they're helping them do this and get back to having all this great time again. And then you hear about the side effects for the next 2.5 minutes, and it's like it could also lead to sudden blindness. I'm like, I did that one. A loss of hearing, thoughts of suicide, thoughts of killing yourselves or other people, and you're like, oh, I did all of that. Sudden loss of breath, or even, and result in death, and you're just like,
That's all of you. That's been all of that's been your experience.
that's exactly why I say what I say, where I don't
You're
believe that.
pharmaceutical advertisement,
Yes, I am
or,
the
or walking
nightmare advertiser.
what's the word I'm looking for here? When they write up all the precautions, you're a walking pharmaceutical precaution.
I was, yes, the poster child for side effects.
Side effect.
Just, if it's gonna happen, it was happening over
book.
here.
That's your second book. I was a side effect.
We're doing it. We're on 2 books.
Hopping Hope, and I was a side effect.
Absolutely. I'm popping hope, and I was a side effect. I love that. I'm so excited to write these books. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh,
You can mention me in the acknowledgements.
absolutely. I think I'm going to call on you to help me write this. You ask really great questions that get me speaking about things that I honestly, I just keep them here as like my badge of honor, like my medals. I keep them over my heart. They're close to my heart, like my medals. This is what I went through. These are the things that didn't kill me. And I have my little trophy. So when I'm asked about one of them, I'm like, well, I got to tell you the story of all of them, really, in order for you to, really know about that one.
It is true what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I mean, it's a cliche and it's all that, but it's true. You see people with the most horrific scars and the most horrific accidents, and they come through it. And you say they're not a victim. And I interview a lot of people who are Holocaust survivors and victims of genocide. I interviewed Mariam Ibrahim, who was sentenced to death in Somalia for being a Christian, and she spent 2 years in the prison until America and a lot of countries filed successfully to have her released. But I interviewed her a couple of months ago, and I know she's had a lot of physical and emotional and mental scars from it. But those physical scars are what have actually made her the person she is now today in America. living very happily with her 2 children. And I do think that we tend to think of scars and trauma and that as being something that's negative in our lives, but in actual fact, in many cases, it is what defines us. It is what makes us the people we become. As a consequence, we mightn't have wanted those to become the people we are as a consequence, but it has shown us that, and people who have gone through these, that they're survivors, that they are winners, that they're not defined solely by you're not defined by the fact that you were blind and deaf and that you were paralyzed and 400 pounds and that you were addicted to drugs. You are now defined by the strength of character that you had to overcome all of that.
Boom.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I think we tend to always, and I know I do it myself, you always look at the negative aspects of your life and think, oh, I failed at this or I failed at that. But, I'm still here. For better or worse, I'm still here. And
that's right.
And at what point did it get to you? You say that, or I detected that you were implying that you thought you had suicidal tendencies.
Oh, several times.
How
did I? Okay, so
how did they manifest and how did you overcome them?
So I would have these moments of, it was like I would get blindsided by something, not being able to do something for myself. And like I said, I grew up with 2 choices, get it done or get hurt. So I didn't want pain. I was used to just getting it done no matter how much pain I felt in my body. Mm. So the pain part was easy for me. I was used to that.
Yeah.
It was what the pain was doing was I didn't have any feeling. I didn't have any control. I couldn't get it done. I didn't have access to that limb anymore. I didn't have access to the ability to do something anymore. That was the part for me that was like, if I can't do it, how am I going to live?
Must have been very hard at that, to be carrying that much weight, and not being able to see, not being able to hear properly, at not knowing whether you were going to wake up and what part of your body, if all of it was going to be working that day, and still to keep going. It's totally inspirational. I don't know, do you realize how inspirational it is? Because I think I think blindness has probably got to be, I feel, the worst disability, because it robs you of the power of being able to see people and see everything around you. But also the thoughts of being paralyzed from the neck down, where you're completely, as you said, you were unable to maybe just move your eyes. That's the stuff of nightmares.
Yes, that is exactly the stuff of nightmares. That's the stuff of torment. That's the stuff of torture. Like, that's the stuff that fear is made out of. And that's how I lived. Every day I was terrified because I didn't know I didn't know what was going to happen when I closed my eyes and opened them again. When I was carrying all that weight, I had a lot of fluid on me and I could hear the water inside of me. So I would fall asleep and I would have these dreams I was drowning, and it would be because I fell asleep on my back and all that fluid was sitting on me, and I had fluid everywhere, just everywhere. Fluid, like water, like a water balloon, It was everywhere. And I would have, the nightmares of drowning, and it would be like drowning in my own body because all that fluid is just putting pressure on my heart, so I can't lay on my back. Or
and then you couldn't, because you were so heavy.
Say again?
You couldn't turn over on your side because your size prevented you from staying on your side, I would imagine.
Well, being on my side was, I had the right, I couldn't be on my right side because my right side hurt. And I couldn't be really on my left side completely because I needed to be able to do stuff with my left hand. So what I would wind up doing was I would kind of prop myself up, like just prop my right side up. So everything was elevated on pillows this side. So it made it easy for me to be able to just push and get myself up. And still to be able to reach whatever I needed, and also to elevate my right arm because I couldn't even have like a shirt touch it. The fan being on, blowing on my arm would be the most excruciating pain. Water in the shower on my arm was excruciating. So it was definitely, it was horrifying. I really will tell you, it was the most horrific time of my life, worse than all the abuse that I had sustained as a child and through my throughout my life. What was going on in my body was truly the evidence that there is good, there is a God, and there is evil, there is a devil, period.
In some respects, maybe it was your body telling you that the experience, what you were experiencing in your body was probably a manifestation of what you were experiencing in your life, and up to then, that and then when you came off the drugs and you started to eat properly, and you removed yourself from the violence, and you started to live a more fulfilled life, a more I suppose, truthful life to yourself, that all of the pain and all of the and everything started to. It was probably your body reacting to everything.
Yes, I will say that's 100% accurate. A physical manifestation of what was going on spiritually and mentally, 100%. And I just had to choose. If I wanted to live that, if I wanted to hold on to that, I was going to get the consequences of it, and they were there, and I had to pay them, or I had to ask for debt forgiveness. And I'm so grateful that I got the forgiveness to not have to pay that debt. That's a heavy cost to pay.
Were you always spiritual?
I was actually, yes, I was. I just was introduced to Jesus as a child because of the child abuse. And that wound up being the only safe place for me. I would pray that they wouldn't beat me to death, and he wouldn't let them beat me to death. Yeah, I'd be bloody, bruised, and broken, but
are you talking about your parents?
The people who raised me, yes. And yes, the people who parented me, and my childhood was horribly abusive.
Did you live with your biological parents? No.
I honestly, there's some question of whether or not, because of the level of hatred and the level of abuse, I'm not sure if I ever really found my biological family or not. If these people really are my biological family and it just was that hateful of a situation, or if they're not, and I have another family out there. I just never really investigated. I just gave it to the fact that this is not love, and I'm not doing that. And once I got that through my skull and I started to live that, I just, I have a healthy family structure. We're not all blood related, but I do have a healthy, stable support system where I can say that according to what I studied in the Bible, historically, any document of what a healthy, loving family is, I have that now. And the difference is my health is phenomenal. Every day I get better and better, Mary. I'm telling you right now. Stuff that was wrong, it's just like everything is regrowing. Yes, it takes time. And yes, I still feel that regrowth, but I didn't know the body was capable of such regeneration and restoration. I always had my suspicions, but I never knew if we really nurtured it, if we put it in a consistent environment where that's the only thing we're doing is nurturing, that the body really will heal.
But when you look at human beings, we are not so unlike plants. We're living, breathing organisms, just as plants are. And you look at, and you look at the masks and that people are having to wear masks, and you think, well, in order for us to survive, we've got to breathe in oxygen, and we've got to breathe out carbon dioxide. The trees have got to breathe in the carbon dioxide that we've breathed out, and they then breathe out the oxygen that we breathe back in. So we're working very much in harmony with the plants and the trees and everything around us. So there really is, I don't believe that there really is any strange science to the fact that eating plants and using plants can have such beneficial impact on our lives. After all, we are intrinsically linked to plants and to trees and to nature.
Yes.
Than we will ever know. We need them to survive. They need us to survive.
Yes.
And in more ways than one. So when people say, oh, you have to eat this and you have to eat that, you couldn't survive on plants. You couldn't survive on, well, you can, because plants, we are as beings, as breathing beings, we survive by helping each other.
Yes.
Why can't we survive by eating?
That's helping each other.
Than meat, than animals. I do eat, as I say, I went back on meat now again, but having spoken to you, Sequoia by name, Sequoia by nature.
I love that.
I am going to probably try and get back to eating healthily again, because I had lost all the weight when I was. Half of it was starvation because I wasn't cooking.
I understand.
Everywhere for a vegetarian meal, a vegetarian takeout, and you can't get them.
No, you gotta. That's our ancestors just were making it at home. I mean, when you think about a soup really is vegetarian until you put meat in it. So you can still say again.
Or cream.
Yes.
Cream.
A cream. Well, a cream I feel like we're gonna I want to share some of your recipes and see how I can help and tweak them and adjust them to make them quick and easy, nourishing and delicious.
Easy is the word. That's the phrase I like. Quick and easy.
I would love that. I would be honored.
5-minute meals, Sequoia.
Oh yeah? Is that a challenge?
That's a challenge.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay. We're gonna do this. A 5-minute meal.
I love vegetables. I love spinach. I love carrots. I love potatoes. I love beans, kidney beans, red beans.
Mm-hmm.
By nature, I'm a vegetarian, or even a vegan, but I'm just too lazy. No. And I love garlic. So anything working on those, like anything to do with vegetables, I'm in. Red and green peppers. Mushrooms, I'd eat raw. I love them.
Love it. Okay, awesome.
My problem is I want meals that are done in 5 minutes. So that's your challenge.
But what are we cooking on? Are we cooking on gas? Are we cooking on electric?
We're cooking on gas.
We're cooking on gas. All right. We have an oven?
We have an oven. The oven is electric. For some reason or other, I went for an electric oven with a gas hob, and we always had gas oven and gas hob, but I think the oven has been used maybe twice. I have it in about 4 years. I'm terrible. No wonder.
Right up. What?
A waste of space.
This is my dream come true. This is the kind of friendship I welcome, because I'm like, I will cook for you, my friend. Come over. I will cook for you.
5-minute recipes now.
5-minute recipes. Okay, 5-minute recipes. You know what? I've got some. I think you're gonna do. I need to see what also is available. So we're gonna have to do some collaboration. I need to know what's available, where you live as far as produces
We have
and
radishes. Not radishes. Leeks. I don't know what you call them.
ooh, leeks. They look
Leeks.
like giant onions.
Yeah,
Yes, those are so great for soups and
onions.
sautés.
Love onion. I love vegetables. I hated them as a child. Love them now as an adult. Why, I don't know
Oh,
what happened, but I could sit and eat a plate of vegetables. But it's just laziness when it comes to cooking. So five
okay.
minutes, 10 minutes maximum.
Oh, all right. Okay. This is good. 10
Well,
minutes max. Okay. I got some
well,
ideas so far, but I know lentils take about 50. Oh, wait, you can cook lentils in 7 to 13 minutes. That averages out to 10.
okay, no, but that's okay. We'll go to 15.
Okay.
Five
Okay,
and
awesome. We can do it
well,
for sure. Yes,
Sequoia, I feel like I've known you forever, and
absolutely.
and thank you very much for being my guest.
I'm so
Um,
glad you.
and I had Michael on a few weeks ago, as you know.
I did. I watched. I really enjoyed your energy. And I remember watching it and I thought you were so adorable. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be on her show. You just like the tea time and I love tea. I just thought it was so cute. And I just love it. So I'm
Well,
here.
I'm addicted to tea, and I actually forgot to drink it.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
So
I
cold now, but I don't care. I still drink it. It's wet,
I
and
will
that's.
tell you,
But
tea is plant infused water. So that's phenomenal. I have my own tea line. So I make custom teas. So I
yeah.
love that you love it. Yes, I look forward to sharing some tea recipes with you. We're gonna have to have tea and go over some recipes together. That'll be so fun. This
So fun.
is a really great,
And
great, great.
I inherited my passion for tea, my love of tea from my English father and my
Oh,
Irish mother and my Welsh grandmother, because all of them were addicted to tea. And came into my nana's house in England, and the first thing, well, the kettle was always on, and you'd always be given tea. And you came into our house when my mum was alive, and the kettle was always on. So you were
wow.
always guaranteed of a cup of tea. The minute you walked in the door, you weren't even asked. It was poured out for you.
I love it. What kind of tea? What's your favorite?
Well, we have here in Ireland, it's Barry's tea,
Berry.
B-A-R-R-Y-S, Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, and we've Lyons' tea, but I like Barry's tea. It's Irish tea.
Irish tea. What is it like the flavor? What's in it?
It's tea. I use the tea bags. I don't use the actual tea leaves at all. I use the tea bags, but I'll get your address and I'll send you. Actually, you can get them in. I know you can get them in New York, Barry's tea, but I'll try and send you on a box of them. They look a bit like drugs, though, when if I'm shipping them, because
Wait, are they?
they're just square with a string on them, and they're brown leaves, but they're very famous here in Ireland, and
Is it?
everyone that leaves Ireland and emigrates or even goes on holidays for 2 weeks or a week bring a box at least of Barry's tea with them.
For real?
Oh yeah,
Is
that's
it
the
black tea?
that's the thing Irish people most miss when they leave Ireland. It's been discovered are two things: Barry's tea and Tato crisps. They're like snacks, but they're cheese and onion, and
Oh, potato chips.
they're potato chips, but they're cheese and onion, and they're Tato, Tayto,
Oh,
Tato,
that's so cute.
Tato.
Wow.
A little fat yellow man on it, on the bag, and people bring boxes of them with them when they're moving, because they always remind them of home.
Oh my goodness, that's so adorable. That makes me want to put, I mean, I have tea on my menu, but now I feel like I need to have a custom tea.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
need, I'm going to look this up. Is Barry's tea a black tea or a white tea or?
I would call it, well, I don't know what you mean by black or white. There, I can't, we don't have Barry's tea here with us, but but 1 second but I'll have to check that out for you, Sequoia.
Thank you. I'm
Well,
super interested. Um, yeah, I'm really thinking of what I can put on my menu. It's been such an honor, and I love to just bring special things like that welcome you home. I love to put that on my menu and share that. When I share my food, I share it with my friends and my family, and my friends are my family. I share it with those who I love. I don't really measure if you're a friend or a family. I consider you family. I'm going to love you first, and you know, we'll just sort out the details later. So I
yeah,
would love to be able to put something like that, a homey, it's a tea that'll make you feel like you're welcome home on my menu. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
taste of home.
A taste of home. You are so good at this. That's you just giving me so many jewels.
Write that down. Taste of
I,
home.
I I need more pens. Today I have to buy more pens because I've written through like all of them. My highlighters are dry and I have a pen on my phone, but I'm using it right now. So but I have them.
Well, thank you very much, Sequoia, for being my guest today. And hopefully we'll meet up sometime in life, in physicality. And
Yes.
Shindera leis an Clare, that's the end of the show for today. Until the next time, Lacuna Day, with the help of God. Bawalam tu galer chiacana sonis agus gra. I wish you peace, happiness, and love. Agus gade shifslan. God bless. Bye, Sequoia.
Bye.
Bye bye.